guest tonight is a wonderful folk pop duo from Seattle. Their newest release, What I Was and More, was just released last month. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Beth and Darren, aka March to May.
Hello there, Mark.
Hi,
Darren. Yes, hi, Darren. How are you? And Beth, I see you there as well. How are you?
We are doing very well tonight. We're so happy to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me as we were talking pre-show. It's since I haven't had a chance to see you pre-pandemic live in person, this is the next best thing. I get to be virtually with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Beth, thank you, again for getting up at 3 a.m. over in the UK time to join us tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. We're happy to be here.
Cool. So something I've been asking most of the guests during this tour with Alice has been the pandemic. Of course, it's been affecting everyone. Still continues to affect us to this day. And how have both of you been coping during this time?
I can jump into it, and Beth, if you want to jump in after. Yeah. It's kind of strange, but we feel very fortunate because in many ways, the pandemic has actually, I feel like, has brought us closer together in a lot of ways. We finished recording our album right up, before all the shutdowns started, and then we're able to kind of do most everything after that, digitally or remotely. And we've put a ton of work in over the last, I guess, 7 or 8 months into this album and the videos and everything else that come with it. But it's, even though it's a very stressful thing in a lot of ways, it's also been, I think, kind of a gift for the two of us.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Darren mentioned that it's brought us kind of closer together, and I was thinking, as he said that, closer together and farther apart in the most strange ways. As Mark referenced, so I actually am in the UK right now doing a grad program that I started about a month ago, and ended up sort of flying to the UK just a couple of days after our album came out, which was, that week was just a blur. But before that, so Darren and I actually ended up quarantining together to get everything done during the initial lockdown in Seattle. And so yeah, we just had this sort of extremely close time to connect. And now with me in grad school, it's funny because it's something that we planned for and we knew was coming, and we were very, very thoughtful and intentional about how we were going to keep going forward during this year. So that's never sort of been a question, but it's definitely sort of changed the framework that we've gone into with that. So initially we were planning to tour, and now no one's touring, and now sort of that's just on hold anyway. And it's given us this kind of interesting template for connecting in ways like this that wouldn't have necessarily been possible. So yeah, silver linings for sure.
Okay. And Beth, do you mind if I ask, what do you, what's your discipline, your study?
Sure. I'm doing an MBA at Oxford. So yeah, so mostly with a focus on social entrepreneurship.
Wow. That's amazing. That's so did you know quite a long time ago that this was something that you wanted to do, or was it something a little bit more recent in terms of applying and what you wanted to do for your master's?
I thought about it, but not. I've circled it for a couple of years, and then the timing just felt right now. And actually, it's been funny. I tell this story with love, Darren. But obviously, music was a big question mark in that, because music is obviously a very, very big part of Darren's and my life, and not something that we'd ever want to put to rest or lead people to think was being put to rest. So the question of, well, if I go to grad school, how are we going to handle that, was always kind of a question. And Darren gave me a call. I think I was actually here in the UK for my interview, and Darren gave me a call and was like, I just have this feeling. I think if you get in, you should go. Like you should absolutely go. And that conviction and that support has been everything. So shout out to my very dear bandmate.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. And then Darren, on your side, if you don't mind my asking, what do you do in Fremont?
So it's kind of funny. I actually went back to school a few years ago for an MBA as well. focus on, well, the program is focused on sustainable business. But currently I actually work for a nonprofit coaching entrepreneurs. And that's something that has just been a wonderful, kind of way to express my left brain as well as my right brain, and really kind of help people follow their dreams. And that's, been a really fun part of it for me, like for the last 6 years, while we're building March to May, having this really kind of fun pursuits, that I can do to help other people. So.
Oh, wonderful. I have a teaching background myself, and then I also spent some time at a handful of community-based organizations here in the area.
Awesome.
So I'm very much about giving back and helping others and things of that nature, and that'll never change with me till the day I die. It's just part of who I am. So I think that's wonderful to hear from both of you of what you're pursuing, and that also kind of brings me to the music side. What's your music background before we get into March to May and the 2 albums and the singles and the videos and all that?
Yeah,
can I kick it off, Dan?
Sure. Yeah. My mom always tells a story when I was supposedly 4 years old and I was home, I wasn't at school yet, and she heard this music coming from the other room, and she realized that it was just me that was home. And so she walks into the room, and I guess I was playing piano. And so she signed me up for piano lessons from like the age of 5 until sometime in high school. And then I actually pursued that as a degree my first year of college as a piano major. And then, I also sang in a chorus, and I, play trombone and some other stuff, but I kind of put music aside for a while and try pursuing it with, a few different people now and then throughout the years, try pursuing it solo, and just really didn't find the right people, didn't find the right inspiration to do so. So it wasn't really until I met Beth just randomly that, it just kind of kicked off, this now almost 8-year-long project that we've been embarked on together. So mainly classical training, with a lot of other influences of pop and rock and folk and, electronica and all sorts of things.
Okay.
Yeah. On my end, I'd sung for a while. I had sung in choirs since about the 4th grade, and I really loved it. And I'd done a cappella in university. So pretty strong singing background. And then harp was actually just something I picked up kind of as a teenager. I had been an athlete and got fairly injured, and been told that I needed to sort of give up my sport. So I think at the time I didn't realize it, but I think my parents and other people in my sort of adult world were doing the math and thinking, okay, well, teenager used to having like no time, all of a sudden going to have all this time on her hands. Like, what do we do to sort of help her fill that gap? And I had a friend whose mother played harp, so kind of encouraged me, and I got into it then. But like Darren, I'd kind of set it aside for a while, and I had no real expectations of pursuing it seriously. Actually, I had a conversation with my mom before I moved to Seattle about whether or not I was going to try to find anything musical. And I remember telling her I just didn't think that was in the cards. And then I moved into Darren's Craigslist house 2 weeks later. So.
Wow, that's well. And Beth, where are you originally from?
I'm from kind of all over. My dad was in the Foreign Service, so I grew up in this country and that, and then went to high school in the Ashland, Oregon area.
Okay, yeah, because I know Darren was telling me that he's from originally from Maine, back east. So, so you both have mentioned that, and you just mentioned, Beth, that you met in Darren's Craigslist house. So that was something where you're both living, or what was this initial meeting like?
Yeah,
I answered a Craigslist ad.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, no, I was looking for a housemate, to move in, and we wound up, myself and the other couple of housemates, we wound up interviewing literally 35 or 40 people in person after narrowing it down from like 100. And we almost chose somebody else, but we already promised. We did a Zoom interview or Skype interview with Beth, and we promised that we would do an in-person interview because she was flying from DC to Seattle on Sunday. And we waited a few more days. We interviewed Beth, and all of us were like, "Yep, she's the one." But I had no idea at that point that she did anything musical. She kept that a secret.
I just chose not to disclose.
I know.
Darren had put in his Craigslist ad that he was a musician, and first of all, I don't think I really thought of myself as a musician in that way. I thought of myself as being musical, but not necessarily like a musician, because I wasn't really pursuing anything around it. And I was also a little conscious of a potential dynamic of like either competitiveness or like join the family band. And I wasn't particularly interested in either of those options. So, so I just didn't say anything, and the rest is history.
Okay, well, so
the truth always comes out.
That's true.
So your housemates, and you find out that, well, Beth already knew that Darren had a musical background, and eventually Darren finds out Beth has a musical background. When did it get to a point where you're thinking this is like more than just a project? This should be a band, something that we move forward with.
Yeah, great question, Mark. We, kind of started playing around and experimenting with, just overlapping, over the harp and vocals and harmonies and all these kinds of things, the early part of 2013. And then we decided to kind of, see what happened. We went on a songwriting retreat at the end of March in 2013, and came away with pretty much two songs, one of which we still play regularly today. And just, I think kind of from that point on, I think one of the things we talked about was, and that we both felt, strongly about this with our music was, this is something really special, and, let's just take this as far as we can. And like, I remember like us talking about that and saying that, gosh, 7.5 years ago now. And, here we are today, and, we've done a lot, and so we feel really proud of what we've accomplished, and just, are still going to keep taking it as far as we can. So.
Okay, and did the name March to May come right away, or were there some other things you're kind of weighing out about which one you wanted to go with?
We actually weighed a number of different names. March to May was on a list of band names that Darren had come up with previously when he was playing with a cellist. And so when we were first going through the naming process, we started there just because it was something other than a blank page, and had kind of a short list of ones we liked. But then March to May just kept being that one that we came back to, that our friends liked, that was kind of the winner. We also liked that it's our formative period. So we wrote our first song together in March and decided we were officially going to be a band in May. We liked the alliteration. We liked the sense of springtime. And then people always guess that this is the case, and it's true, but it wasn't actually a driving reason at all. But Darren was born in March and I was born in May.
Oh, wow.
Very coincidentally, like that's really actually had nothing to do with choosing the name, but it was a nice backup for that.
Like a little bonus.
Exactly.
Wow. So your debut, Through the Night, was that something where you had X amount of songs and this is where we're going to put out an album? Was it something where you had 30 songs and you kind of whittled it down to these are the ones that we feel represent us right now at that time?
More the latter process than the former. So we did release an EP before that, so it wasn't our first foray into recording. Darren and I are always pretty thoughtful about what songs end up being on an album and which album. We try to keep a pretty cohesive sound and narrative going through our different albums. So there are actually a number of songs that we have written and love and play regularly that have just never made it onto an album because they've never really fit the feeling we were trying to go for with that specific album or the story we were trying to tell. And then similarly for this album, we wrote a third of it just in the final sprint to recording. So just a couple of weeks actually before we went into the studio, we had some ideas that had been simmering and kind of felt like they were going to be really right for this album if we could push them over the finish line, and we did, and I'm so glad. So yeah, no, we're pretty thoughtful about what goes on which album.
Okay, yeah, I know some artists are definitely of the same mindset that when they have their batch of songs, they might have one or two that just don't quite fit that resonance of what they're trying to put out and what they're trying to say musically to the world at that point. So they just push them off to the side and either keep playing them or maybe it comes up on a future release, or sometimes, they just never come out. They're just something that they love, but they just don't seem to find that niche where it's like, okay, I think it fits on this one now. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, and that's one thing too, like even for this album, we kind of took all these songs that we had and, kind of just sat down for a few hours and kind of brainstormed, and like with each song, listened to it and try to get a sense of what kind of theme, what kind of meaning or feeling was coming from it. And how did this all work together? So yeah, absolutely, Mark.
Okay. And then with the sophomore effort of What I Was and More, it sounded like you're thinking going the singles route, which is really popular right now in terms of just because where the money's made from, and if you do a full album, and then it's like, well, people are just putting singles out, maybe a video, then another single, another video. So was that what was when did the decision become we're going to put this out as an album?
I think so. When we first started thinking about this as sort of a project that we were solidly going to move forward with last April. Darren, correct me if I'm getting my years mixed up here. No,
April 2019. Sure.
Yes, April 2019.
Yeah.
It's been a weird year for time. Sorry, but last April we started thinking about this project, and we had a couple of songs. But I think it was really over that summer that we just started getting into this groove around writing and around sort of how we were thinking about this album and some of the narrative threads that we were picking up in the songs that we'd wanted to do as singles. And we were like, well, I think there's an underlying threads through some of these and through some of the things that are coming out of our writing process. And this is a bigger story than or mood, I guess, that we want to capture than just some individual songs. Like let's link those together and let's make that a body of work.
Yeah. And so we actually started recording, we recorded the first 3 songs in late August of last year, and then didn't record anything again until January. So there's a bit of a pause there. And like Beth said, we wound up recording or writing, I don't know, a third of or more of the album, like in those following few months, because they fit in so well. So it kind of just snowballed, and it quickly became this kind of full body of work instead of just singles or instead of an EP. Yeah.
Okay. And I know you provided us with a music video that we're going to be showing here in about 30 seconds or so. What can you tell me about the music video before we show it?
Ooh, Hylas. Hylas is the first single off of the album, and definitely a little bit of a different flavor for what we usually do, but definitely still within our wheelhouse. Hylas is maybe our angriest song yet. There's a little bit of bitterness in that. But the video itself, we actually shot at the very tail end of lockdown as things were just opening up, and we had about a week between our producer really encouraged us to do a video for the song. He was like, I think you should do it. But with our timeline, we didn't really have much of a runway to sort of plan something out before it would need to be shot and finished. So we concepted it and shot it within the space of a week, and on a shoestring in terms of people because of social distancing. Like, it was literally Darren and I, our videographer, and then one person who came out to help out. And yeah, it was definitely an interesting process to shoot during the pandemic and wear every possible hat you possibly can in a video production process ourselves. So I'm excited to hear what everyone thinks.
Awesome. So well, Beth and Darren, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me tonight, and this morning for someone. And I wish you all the success with the album and your future projects that are coming up. And hopefully once we're past this, I'll get a chance to actually see you in some form, actually in person.
Yes.
We would love that, and we look forward to that day.
Yeah. So. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
Yes.
Very much appreciated and part of this.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
All right. You too.